Meanwhile, on Torren 4,
Molotov
Gulch.
once again, if you forgot, Torren 4 was the planet where, in A Crack in Time, Ratchet found Alistair Asimov. It was the planet populated by the scavengers who were, you know, picking out the junkyard stuff.
Things never go according to plan. Improvisation is a skill you learn very fast.
I also have a
Yeah, just put on a black turtleneck, you know, Clank, and you'll be good to go.
What, he's gonna disguise himself as Steve Jobs?
Well, kinda, but that seems to be like the default outfit for improvisational comedians. Alright, this particular word can be nasty if on the PC version you have the RTX option turned on. It's subtle, it doesn't immediately give you a problem, but towards the end, it basically applies the curse of vision, as in, if you... and later on you will be able to see that there's a Zircon vendor in this world too. By the end of the world, when everything is completed, if you turn your attention towards Zircon, the game crashes. Simply put, no ifs nor whats, just because you have RTX turned on. You know, if you don't want to turn off that, the only way to get out of this planet is to basically do the walk of shame and look down on the ground until you reach back your ship.
Oh, very specific and weird.
I know, right? Alright, before moving on, let's go get, if I recall correctly, a gold bolt, which is hidden here. I mean, I don't know, Clank. I think the Volors in A Crack in Time were fairly amicable. Like, the closest I can think of was the guy that was doing the Wizard of Oz routine to bar the passage for a bit, but even then, he wasn't that particularly hostile towards Ratchet. I don't know what he's talking about.
It would probably make more sense if he was talking about the aliens who were taking them over.
The Agorian? I guess, yeah, but no, they're not here.
Again, this is one of those times where I do have to wonder, like, it's weird, like, okay, the writers clearly did do some research, but then there are some bits where I wonder, how much research did they do, actually?
Oh, what was the good one?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah, Raid Shadow Legends, so don't you know, which you can play now on your phone.
This video has been sponsored by Ray Fresh VPN.
Ow. Yeah, sometimes the game does the whole thing about fighting with the magnet boots with a flip perspective. You've seen that also in the tutorial level. It's not a lot, but you can tell that they try to be a bit quirky about it. And right here we can find almost immediately the infobot. This is mostly because this particular planet focuses a bit more on an ongoing set piece rather than you know, having being broken in specific section. But first, the description.
An arena for titanic robot death matches and full contact poetry slams, this area became a well of highly sought after ancient ore and rare technology. While the Emperor shows little interest in these outdated parts, the Vullards have managed a fairly stable business salvaging the bones of these classic warriors. Or at least they did, until the pirates began...
So yeah, instead of the Agorians, it's the space pirates who are harassing here, the Vullards.
Course.
God, can you imagine if they had actually done a counterpart to the Worlds from Quest for Booty?
What Worlds? There was only one.
Yeah, World.
And even then, it was generic pirate world, which we already had in the form of Ardolis. So,
I sworn that game took place on at least 2 worlds,
nope,
like, you know, the one at the start, and then we made it to the Treasure Planet world.
It was the same one, but Ratchet was catapulted from the ship, you know, across the ocean.
Huh, wow. Still, though, again, can you imagine how mad it would have been if they actually remembered Quest for Booty of all things? Speaking of remembering things...
And the Buzzblades. See what I mean? I mentioned this a few parts ago, but again... they clearly wanted to have almost the entire, arsenal from the 2016 video game returning. I will mention also something else about Musketeers in a second.
Please, enjoy yourselves. Did you know Molinoff means paradise in Junkish?
Uh-huh.
Is the fixer on this planet?
He most definitely is. Great guy, the best, and single.
No thank you. He keeps complaining about the government being in cahoots with Al-Qaeda or something.
Phase Quartz, Blaze Quartz, any quartz, anything.
What about Saint Quartz?
We've been having trouble with pirates, so we asked him to help because, he's a big guy.
So yeah, the Fixer is actually one of the giant robots that were mostly part of the background in a cracking time. In this case, apparently, he normally should work Iron Giant style, but apparently he's broken.
Man, don't you just hate when you're a robot and you break down like that?
Well, we'll have to find out. We had to fix the Fixer. Wow, yo dog.
So now we know who fixes the fixers, but we still haven't found out who monitors the monitors.
It is possible, but Ratchet is uncertain. Perhaps he is afraid
Wait,
that
afraid? Why afraid?
it is complicated.
Huh. Well, hey, if he doesn't want to go, I will.
Yeah.
Maybe we should tell her about what happens every time we try with that Clank.
Well, to be fair, right now they're just focusing on trying to fix the problem before anything else.
Needless to say, it doesn't end well.
It's like, I mean, he says it's complicated, but when you think about it, it's kind of simple. Every time we try using it, things go belly up.
Well, it's more like every time they try to use it, someone else who shouldn't put their hands on the Dimensionator instead do. So it's more of a case of trying to keeping it safe. But Ratchet & Clank thinks that the best solution is to cut the middleman and just, keep it broken so nobody can use it.
I like to call it the popularity curse. Like, okay, let's think about it. In almost any media series, the more popular a protagonist or superhero is, the more likely their quest for truth, justice, and peace and whatnot is, well, prolonged. Like, okay, think about it like this. Yeah, maybe a small-time character who series gets cancelled. Well, chances are they get a happy ending and their quest is finished. Then you get, say, someone like Superman or Batman, who have been fighting that quest for truth, justice, and whatnot for, God, I think nearly a century now.
Yeah,
now, mind you, it's not the worst case. Like, Superman's doing fine, even as a family kid and whatnot. Batman is surprisingly doing fine. But then you get cases like Spider-Man, where the writers will contrive everything they can to keep the status quo going, and by that, I do mean make him miserable. It's that big ironic case where I bring it back to Ratchet & Clank, where, I'm sorry, Ratchet, but I feel like any situation that would supposedly see you get your family back with the Dimensionator is probably contractually obligated to go terribly, because we need a game plot.
I mean, on one end, I could say we might, that's what we can hope for, as I mentioned a couple of times, on the next Fable game, to see if finally we can have something, of a resolution about that. But who the fuck knows at this point, considering everything that's happening to Sony and the gaming industry as a whole.
A smelting pit is a curious place for a hurl shot to be.
I'm guessing it has something to do with them all getting recalled recently. Something about fractured spines?
Oh, dear.
Smooth.
To mention instead, you can do this to get a gold bolt. What happened before with Zircon is a prelude to the thing that I was mentioning in the beginning, where for some reason, probably because of the whole RTX thing going on, you cannot view the weapon intro small video that normally Zircon Jr. narrates. Specifically on this planet, again, if the RTX is turned on. Again, don't ask me why that works. Maybe it's a case where the game is not rendering fully all the details of the world or some shit like that. It's really weird.
And it's like I said, it's such a weirdly specific thing that happens, too.
Oh, look who is back.
The pirates.
And
No.
Pierre.
Yo-ho, our time has finally come. Let us plunder like mad and go break bad, for the fixer is all but done.
Look here, mateys, this looks useful. In fact, I've a notion that it be crucial.
Riley! Yay!
Hey, it's Monkey Island.
Ma petite rivette.
Guess fate really loves seeing you get your butt kicked, Pierre.
Ah! Yoo-hoo! Pirate mateys! Attack!
Alright, time to deal with them, and just like in Tools of Destruction, they can get a bit annoying, especially the ones with the shield. Thankfully you do have weapons to circumvent that, but, you know, it requires some strategizing, basically.
Quick, use the counter maneuver, Arkham.
Good idea. Shields?
Also, if you have noticed, the small grind rail set piece with the parts moving and jumping from one another is a small callback to one of the final sequences from All for One, where you are properly inside the city doing the final assault, and the Croc and Zephyr tell you to use Witching Stick Rail that is constantly moving. Again, that's pretty neat, and it showcased the fact that Insomniac still has a lot of love for All for One, when by all accounts is not potentially as remembered just because it wasn't a traditional single player experience. Basically, what we need to do now is to just defeat the waves of the pirates, because that trinket right there between, you know, the contraption is what we're looking for. Again, even this world in particular just feels a bit like classic Spyro games. The idea of the boulders being attacked by an opposite force and you are cleaning up the place. It really just, this game above almost everyone else does give me more the vibes of extended Spyro game with you know, with a coat of paint, similar to how it felt in the original trilogy.
You know, if Insomniac still owned the rights to Spyro, I bet you by now we would have gotten Spyro showing up in some of these.
Maybe it's just a cameo, but otherwise not really, because by the... Okay, like I said when we did the original, first Ratchet and Clank, alright, this is basically just an upgrade of the swing shot, because it just hurls you at, you know, ludicrous speed. Watch this.
Whee!
He was hoping Rivet can absorb the G's. Like, Batman Arkham Knight, we're talking about DC Comics, Batman Arkham Knight really needed to actually explain Technobabble to explain why Bruce's new suit can actually do all of that shit without him breaking his balls.
So what happens if you time that wrong? Rivet dies by having her neck broken or something.
Same fate as the fixer? We be happy to oblige.
So delicious! J'adore! Our looting was so boring until you arrived. So merci for letting that.
Yeah, keep laughing, Pierre.
Anyway, more pirates are busy to deal with.
The fixer will help finish them off.
Sure would suck if the Fixer turns out to be on the take and he tries to kill us when we wake him up.
Well, to be fair, he's been, destroying the pirates on part of the Volars. The only reason why that will happen will be if the Volars want to betray us, which I know that the bowlers at the beginning that talked to Rivet felt a bit sketchy, but I can tell you that's not the direction we're going. Because remember, this is supposed to be one of those modern games that try to, avoid cliches that have been happening up until this point, or at least put a spin on those.
Imagine it now, he shows up. I'm the fixer, and I'm here to fix a problem.
You.
You.
Jesus.
Because you're evil.
Not to mention, yeah, sure, whatever you say.
Oh, yes, it's one of those twists where you're playing as the villain and he's the protagonist for sure.
Clearly. I mean, Who would even want to have a game where a French character is the protagonist?
I'm just gonna say it, Propeller Knight was robbed.
Was he supposed to be French? I don't remember him having an accent.
Yes. Yes, he's
yes, he had the
definitely
dandy
French.
kind of thing, but I don't remember if it was that specific.
Yes, he is French. I forget if he had the accent, but it was definitely stated at some point that he's French, or at the very least, the allegory for, you know, the Frenchman from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh, fair enough.
Drown, but there's no water around to drown her in.
We'll improvise, like Rivet said, yes. Also,
We be pirates, so we only use the typical pirate vernacular, even when we're out in the desert.
now to be fair, they're also robots, so, you know, I can believe that, just, you know, AI cycles.
Of course, they were programmed with those thought patterns in mind, fair enough.
Also, I get what you mean, just talking about, specifically about, yeah, just that we have another mini-boss similar to Francois, how he was in the arena. There, we Roger. I get what you mean specifically about the robots of the Order of No Quarter, specifically like the Knights of the Order of No Quarter. But honestly, to me, the biggest missed potential still is Black Knight, mostly because the story implies there's a lot more to his character and the fact that he's connected more to Shield Knight and the Sorceress, but because he never got his campaign, we never got to learn that.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this. I know that it was technically a fair vote, but I find it interesting that the 3 knights that got voted on are basically like the 3 bosses you can get, which does leave me wondering if maybe it was voted on by people who hadn't gotten through the game all through and clear and whatnot at that point.
I don't know.
Not saying... I mean, and look, I'm not even gonna say that those campaigns were bad. Part of me kind of wishes we could have gotten more, although, I don't know. Who knows, if we'd gotten more, then maybe Yacht Club would have wasted even more time on Shovel Knight. That's not to say that they wasted it in a bad time, but given their own current financial issues, part of me does wonder if maybe something's good. Oh. I believe that's... Oh,
Pretend
he
that never
faces
happened.
back.
Move on. The game
Okay,
is
then.
fine.
But yeah, no, like... Part of me does wish we could have gotten proper campaigns for all the bosses and whatnot, but I can maybe guess why we didn't. Sir, is that a good idea?
Yeah, whatever.
He's the boss.
I'm sure that's not gonna bite him in the ass later. Yeah, thank you, Clank. Always with the right suggestion.
Oh look, yeah, right, the propeller back.
Rivet, you need to stop face planting like Sonic.
Nice one, Bolts.
She just wants to show she's built
That's
different.
gonna be bad. That's gonna be bad for your spine.
More like for the head, the skull.
Yes. Let's just say all of her's going to be hurting.
Know when you find something you like.
I mean, wouldn't it be ironic if the only part of her that doesn't hurt is her right arm? The right arm that's technically not there, unless she gets a phantom pain.
There you go, now you need to do just one more stretch across the local fauna and some more remnants of the pirates in order to finally get to the fixer.
Not my experience with big robots.
Lovely.
We'll see.
So, I wonder, does the game ever imply that Rivet's been doing, you know, like, adventures as big scale as Ratchet and Clank, or has she pretty much just been doing with the Emperor the whole time?
And even
Resistance
then,
work.
And even then, she has been having a low-keep, profile up until now. Again, the game doesn't really tell us much in terms of backstory, but from what basically tells is that a rebellion has been happening for a while, yes, but apparently it never was able to put enough of a dent, because apparently the Emperor is just that good in suppressing them. I don't know what to tell you. Only now, because of the dimensional crisis, things are taking a bit of a turn just because of their chaotic nature.
So fix them a quick death.
It's worth noting that similar to, Tools of Destruction, the pirates play a more neutral kind of role. Yes, in Tools of Destruction they were technically built by Tachyon, but for all intents and purposes they were not at his command. Yes, at the end of the day, Slag still stole the Dimensionator at one point, but they did not apparently had any intention to give it to Tachyon. They just had them, on their own as booty. So they're kind of trying to replicate that.
Were you saying something here? I stopped listening.
How will I go on without
Oh, come on now, Rivet. The developers put a lot of time into what he had to say.
You'll never have to find out.
Rivet is channeling some of that Jack Garland energy of trying to skip cutscenes.
Oh, Lord, Jack Garland. He has a lot of nerve given when he plays on his music.
I'm pretty sure there is a mod that allows you to put a custom music just for that moment.
Would not be surprised.
My favorite part of all of that still is that, the default outfit for his freelancer class, which is that very, generic, dark purple, shirt with not much, onto it, and not much details and everything. That has been still his default outfit for any crossover appearance. They were proud of the fact that he is super plain in appearance, even though they could have chose any of the other costumes that he can have, for armor sets.
I really, really do think that Square, specifically the team behind Strangers of Paradise,
Well, that was Team
leaned
Ninja
into.
instead.
Sorry, but I'm convinced that they leaned in with the meme factor of Jack and how
It's more
he's
of a
kind of a
case they
plain ass
were-
edgy dude when you think
It's
about
more of
it.
a case they were genuinely trying to take a vow of secrecy in order for it to be, more of a reveal for unsuspecting players. But when the first trailer, exploded in more popularity and with people figuring out things that they, in order to savage marketing, they just decided to more embrace it. Which again, it's more logical on a marketing standpoint, even if it kind of ruins the surprise.
Yeah, I said this before with
although, to be
cases
fair,
like
they did not go into details in how Jack gets from point A to point B, and I can tell you, that the actual part of the turning point, which is basically the twist, is actually executed pretty greatly. It's a through and through tragedy when you get down to it, even beyond all of the memes and the hilarity factor. The game genuinely has, layers of good storytelling.
I do think in this day and age where a lot of elements can get leaked out or people have a lot more media awareness so they can probably guess from certain clips of the trailers that there are certain bits that some companies could maybe be more open with in the advertising, especially since sometimes it can legit help them. I think special mention goes to No Way Home and how they really tried to play off the lizard as being hit by an invisible person. Come on, guys, why did you even include that section if you thought no one was going to notice?
On one end I can kind of understand, because at that point, there are no more surprises at all, and you might as well not announce anything, until the last second, which is detrimental most of the time for marketing purposes. Because that is especially true also for stuff like data mining. Infamously, the creator of The Binding of Isaac had problems in trying to release new content and trying to find new ways of being cryptic about unlocking it, because otherwise people immediately, on day one, a few hours in, would have data mined the requirement and leaked everything online, Sometimes there are just people who, just with the pursuit of knowledge tends to ruin the fun for others.
That is true. I'm not gonna act like leakers are completely blameless in this regard.
How exactly will we fix the fixer?
Guess we have to turn him on first.
Was he turned off because he was broken?
Huh. This must be the fixer's on switch.
I don't know, it doesn't seem
Surely
particularly
there
broken
was
to
a
me.
more neater way for him to come out.
No. I am broken. As is
Oh no.
everything.
He's broken inside.
If it's about love, dude, we can help.
I don't think so.
I don't think killing us will help.
At least the pirates are taken care of.
Alright, so this entire
Objectives:
sequence...
escape.
I don't remember if this sequence was ever showcased at an event where the game, you know, during the marketing of the game, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was, because this is the classic type of set piece that you showcase, you know, in a presentation to wow the investors and a potential audience, because it's basically
Bonus
just
points.
an entire sequence where you're on literal rails in order to escape the attack of the thief.
Bonus points if it has a bit that could have literally led into a cliffhanger, like how they did with Uncharted
How hard he come
4.
up with this character?
Again, I don't mind it too much, this, because it's quite literally on rail and it's using a mechanic. The game is not necessarily like slowing down or forcing you to taking away control over you. It is much more seamless compared to something like that happening in stuff like God of War.
I am working on it.
I think it's cool.
If anything, it does remind me a bit of the Greek Saga God of War games, if anything. Well, that's actually kind of neat.
So why does he think killing us will help?
Because he's broken inside, and since nothing can be fixed, everything must die.
But you're the fixer. You're supposed to fix things, stop break them. You've lost your way. You've lost your purpose.
Well, Clanks might have an idea, but if so, he needs to think about it immediately.
Clank, we're gonna need you to play robot therapist like no tomorrow.
Don't fall, don't fall, don't fall.
Relax, Ribbit. This is how things usually go for us. There will conveniently always be a bit for you to grind on.
Can everything stop
See?
falling apart, please?
Welcome to being a video game protagonist, honey.
Shit.
Hey, he caught us! We're good! Oh wait, no, he's trying to kill us. Not good.
I am fixed.
What are you doing?
Improvising.
Uh-huh.
I may be different than I was, but you helped me realize I am still Clank.
Putting those acting abilities to use, I see, Clank.
I'm quite relieved.
See, kids, if you want to help someone with psychological therapy, just lie to them.
Great many
What the
You know,
hell?
some people say that some therapy requires lying
I
in
get
some
that it's
regards,
when it's
Jesus
treated
Christ.
kinda as a joke and anything, but I don't know, I think this one could be worked a bit better. Like, the issue of a fixer was genuine.
How can I ever repay you both?
Can you fix this?
No.
Wow, just like that. No
That
actual
is
okay.
no handcraft.
Yeah, no, he just has an I-beam, just like how Superman has an I-beam to repair walls.
Robot the gift of hope. It should be I who is thanking you.
Alright, mission concluded, and now as I mentioned, you need to avoid the stare at Miss Zircon in order to get away, because I only discovered the problem later on and I turned the RTX off later.
So, are we gonna talk about you rescuing me back there?
I did?
You did. Looks like you're a natural even in my dimension.
We talked also over it, but this was also the word where they talked a bit more also about Rivet and you know, having a prosthetic arm as well,
I can be persuaded.
which is still treated, you know, as a bit of a thing that she might be ashamed of, but she reinforces the idea that no, despite everything, she still is. Which, you know, I agree. I think we're, as society, I know that things in the real world might seem, you know, a bit chaotic, but I think that we as a society have just overcome the idea that people with a prosthetic arm are not real people, or some shit like that that was in old centuries.
Shoot, if anything, we're to a point where people are finally finding robotic prosthetics to be cool.
Or to quote Glenn Lodbrok, instead we can just call them cyborgs or something, I don't know. Because apparently the concept of translating the word artificial human is very impossible for the English language.
Well, I guess to be fair in their regards, it's not like they started off as artificial people. And hey, don't you see? Rivet has a robotic arm, whereas Clank is missing a robotic arm. So in a way, she completes him.
Clearly. Alright, that gathering another party, if I recall correctly, there's nothing left but actually haul ass out of the planet. So instead, next part, we resume with Ratchet and Kit instead, where we actually explore the station that supposedly is having the forge, where we can actually create the physical structure of the Dimensionator in order to house the Phase Quartz in it. So see you for that.
Hey.
See ya.